All right, folks. All right, folks. Here we are, June 1st, the first show, the first Joe Mangiacotti show of June, the 6th month. The year has been flying by, folks. Can't believe how fast 2020 is moving along, and I think a few of us don't think we can get to November quick enough. But how much damage can be done between now and then? All right, some housekeeping. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. You can also text us at 617-297-8388 or email me at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. Hey, use that for just during the show, not to reach out to the show. I won't look at it. I won't see it till we're on air again. If you want to email the show, it's simple. It's joemshow@gmail.com. That's simple, joemshow@gmail.com. And a lot of you use the Messenger app on Facebook. Perfectly fine. It's a great way to do it. You can do photos and documents and links, so it works out well. Of course, we're on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN, take us anywhere. And do me a favor, hit that like button so that we know you're there, and then it's easy for you to find us as well. And tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do it. No questions asked. I'm also streaming on my social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. That's the tagline for that stuff. All right, folks, 508-871-7000. We've got Ted A. flying the board back at headquarters. Hey, Ted, you look marvelous. Glad to have you back behind the control board. And we've got a lot to talk about here, folks. First thing I think we're going to go on is going to comment on the Durham Sussman trial. We had a very quick return from what is really a very tainted jury when you think about it, folks. All right. The charge, if you weren't following this. So Sussman, Michael Sussman, is a lawyer that was employed as part of the whole Clinton campaign entourage of lawyers and firms and opposition research gatherers, phony spies, all that kind of stuff. We know now. And we knew, many of us knew it when it was happening, but we weren't allowed to say it, right? We would have had the same treatment that the New York Post got. We would be shadow banned. We would be just suspended or absolutely deleted from the platforms. But the point is, John Sussman, special counsel here, in his investigation, he realizes that Michael Sussman, did I say Sussman or Durham? John Durham. So Sussman, the lawyer, as part of this whole charade with the getting out this phony narrative on Trump, all okayed, right? Because Mookie, her campaign manager, said it on the stand. It's in the record. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not a tweet. It's not hearsay. He said it under oath on the stand that she knew and signed off on everything that they were doing. And he said to the FBI, I need to come talk to you. Take this meeting. I got to give you information. I'm not working for anybody. I'm just a good citizen, and you need to know this. Okay. FBI says, we'll bite. And then during the course of the investigation, of course, John Durham finds out that, in fact, he billed the Clinton campaign for the meeting with the FBI. So he was on the clock. He was representing a client. He lied to the FBI. In all other circumstances and all other people in the world, if you lie to the FBI, let's look at some of the people who got into big trouble under the same accusation who were connected in the Trump sphere. Let's put a pin in that for a second. So he lied to the FBI. No question about it. The jury listens to it. They see everything, all the evidence, the billing, the text, the emails, his notes, what he had to say in his diary and log. And they come back with a not guilty verdict. Now, the left is going to seize on that, saying, see, there's nothing here. We were telling you this. Despite the evidence that he was working with for the Clinton campaign, and that he told the FBI general counsel, James Baker, that he wasn't working for a client. All that evidence was there. Now, what we find out is this was a stacked jury, not to mention judge. This is a serious problem, folks, because we have two justice systems working, right? After the verdict, the jury forewoman, actually, she was actually the forewoman, who declined to give her name, but she did speak out to the media. And she said charges should never have been filed against Mrs. Sussman in the first place. She said, I don't think it should have been prosecuted. There are bigger things that affect the nation than a possible lie to the FBI. But you see where the hypocrisy is, because we have many cases where just that, a lie to the FBI, ended people in prison or jail anyway. Unbelievable. Now, in addition to that, because it's Washington, D.C., it's a very incestuous swamp there, folks, right? Now, you had a jury in Durham's facing this jury where there were 3 Clinton donors on the jury. 3 people believed in Hillary Clinton, supported Hillary Clinton, to the point that they actually took the time, energy, and effort to write a check out and spend their hard-earned money to send it to her campaign. 3 of those people sitting on the jury. That's a problem. There was an AOC donor on the jury. Plus, one of the women on the jury, her daughter and Sussman's daughter are on the same team. They're on a sports team together. So if you, other than maybe pulling the jury pool from the DNC, you couldn't get much worse of a jury here. And the prosecution only gets a finite amount of challenges. And a challenge is just, you usually get 3, right? A challenge is each side says, I challenge that, I want to remove them from the jury. Now, if they want to challenge anyone else, they have to argue it to the judge and convince the judge, or point out it really shouldn't even be an argument, right? The judge, once it's brought to his attention that there's a conflict of interest, the judge should remove that juror automatically. That's how that works. You shouldn't really have to argue it. You should have to point out, oh, Your Honor, Hillary donor, contributed to the Clinton campaign, the Clinton campaign. All right, you 3 probably should not sit on this jury. You would think that's what a judge would do. But he didn't. The evidence made crystal clear that Sussman was guilty as sin. But see, jury nullification by a biased DC jury, and not to mention a biased DC judge. You can't have people who support the person to whom he was working for and lied about. You see, how does that happen? And then, and I have to paraphrase this, but reportedly one of the jurors said something when asked during the selection process, can you be fair? And the juror, potential juror at that time, says, I think I can. I'll try to be fair. I'll do my best. That's not a yes, folks. That's not a definitive, of course I can be fair and impartial. Not a problem. No, that's not what he got. And that, guys, is alarming. So nobody can ignore the big takeaway that the Clinton team was behind promoting the Russian collusion that damaged so much of the country. A lot more is coming in this process with Durham, by the way. And you can present all the evidence you want. And there was plenty of evidence here, folks. But are we going to ever be able to hold them to account in D.C.? And on that note, Kash Patel is calling on the DOJ to move Russia hoax trials outside of D.C., especially after this Sussman verdict. They might not replace or remember Kash Patel, but Kash Patel was part of the Trump cabinet, but not cabinet, but part of the administration. So he called on the U.S. Department of Justice to move its Russian hoax trials outside because the jury was tainted. And how are you? It's very difficult. How are you going to get a jury of peers or non-biased? I mean, you're in D.C. You're in the bubble. You are where it all goes on, folks. I don't get it. I don't get it. But I think we're up for a break here, aren't we, Ted?
1 minute.
All right, we have a minute, so we're good, folks. So you've got this tainted jury, and by the virtue of being in D.C., you're going to have political people. By definition, they're political people. And so I think there's a change of venue that's really needed in this situation, isn't there? You got to get them out of D.C., and you got to put them somewhere where more of the average American type people are there. All right, we'll take a quick break here. The first segment done here in the Wednesday edition. June 1st, folks. Stick with us, 508-871-7000. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
You're out.
Okay. You can let that run down because it's streaming, and then there's nothing going out onto the streaming if we don't let the commercials run. All right, when we come back, I'm out at 29.50 or 20 or 30 even.
Right.
Which one? 29.50?
Listen for the ticking clock.
Okay. Which gives me how many seconds? That's what I need to know.
10 seconds.
10 seconds on the ticking clock. Got it. All right, send
1 minute.
Okay, send the stuff down so I can hear.
Named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-346-1122. That's 1-800-346-1122. 1-800-346-1122. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back for the second segment of the Wednesday edition. Here it is, June 1st, halfway through the year here. This is the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. So just finish up on these thoughts because, again, Kash Patel is asking the DOJ, you've got to fix this. You can't be continuing on with this whole Russian, all the trials connected to the Russian collusion hoax and the spying, right, and the lying that went on, and continued to pull these very tainted jurors who are, first of all, the registered voters in DC, in and around that whole power base. A majority of them are Democrat. And then when you load up these trials with people who have actually donated money to the person, in essence, on trial, any other courtroom in the world, right, would say this is a conflict. We can't be doing this. And Patel was brought up during Sussman's trial. See, the prosecution used his 4-year-old interview with Sussman as evidence. Patel had helped then rep Devin Nunes from California to investigate the Russian collusion hoax while Nunes served on the House Intelligence Committee. And Sussman reportedly told the committee he was working for a client when he went to the FBI, claiming that the computer evidence showed then candidate Donald Trump was tied to the Russian government via the Alpha Bank. So they brought up an interview where Sussman went on the record to say, yeah, I was working for a client, the Clinton campaign, when he brought the evidence for then candidate Donald Trump to the FBI. His own words. Now, here's the thing on this, folks. So the defense was from Sussman, what are you talking about? The FBI knew I worked for the Clinton campaign. They already knew it. So I didn't lie because they knew it. Even though the text showed when he reached out to Baker, I'm not working for anybody. I'm not on any clients. I'm not on the clock. This is just me as a private citizen who needs to tell you this, right? That's the defense. So the other question is, and this is Sussman throwing the FBI under the bus. Think about this, because if he's saying the FBI knew that I worked for the Clinton campaign, i.e., I'm an operative, that my job is to do anything I can to get her elected and him discredited. That was his role, sleazy attorney. So if you're saying that my defense is the FBI knew that I worked, then the question is, why did the FBI take the meeting? Because part of this is the FBI saying, if he had identified that he was coming here on the behalf of a campaign or any client, we wouldn't have taken the meeting because we wouldn't be able to trust the information. Clearly, why would we waste our time with that? That was the FBI initially. Defense comes up. What does it matter? They already knew I was working for the FBI. So then the question is, if your response to that is, hey, if he had told us that he was coming here and working for them, we wouldn't have taken the meeting. That's what the FBI said. So either you got to say, the FBI has to admit, we understood he was working for the Hillary campaign and we took the meeting. Now, why would you take that meeting so that you can be spoon-fed opposition research, which was completely phony? And if you did take the meeting, let's give him that one for a second. Why would they take so much stock in it? Why would they put so much faith in this bogus information and end up ultimately spending millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars on what they would know to be absolutely false or fictitious, made up, a con job? And this is what this is. This is a con job perpetrated on the American people, the American taxpayers, the integrity of the election system, the FISA court, all the courts involved, actually. FISA court should be embarrassed and they should be angry that they've been made a fool of, that they were manipulated, lied to, and pretty much they're a mark. The FISA court is a mark in this huge con job. So as Patel says, hey, we've got to change this. And while Baker may no longer work for the FBI, he did at the time Sussman fed him that Alpha Bank folly. As an American, he should have been appalled that a former Clinton campaign attorney would play the law enforcement and law enforcement and intelligence communities for political purposes. Baker pulled his cell phone records earlier. The text could have served as a separate false statement charge. In black and white, there it is. But there was a delay in Baker finding the text that allowed the statute of limitations to expire. And when Baker asked about it, he said, well, that's your case, not mine. Do you get how sleazy this is yet and what's going on here, folks? It's unbelievable. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Mark. Good afternoon, Mark. How are you, sir? What's on your mind?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Besides banana plantations, what are banana republics famous for?
Oh, exactly this. Corrupt governments where it's sham trials and ignore all their rights. I
You know
mean,
what the answer is?
go ahead. Tell me the answer.
Kangaroo courts.
Yeah, sham courts. That's what I said. Sham courts, kangaroo courts, they're the same thing. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. How can they think that what to have a question when the polls show that our confidence in the government, in the judicial system is at all-time lows? How can that be a surprise to them? Because they don't think you, Mark, me, Ted, and everyone else here listening are paying attention or smart enough to see what's going on. They really think that whatever they tell us, we'll believe. Like it's Orwellian, and it's coming from the Ministry of Truth. I mean, the Biden administration just let the White House press corps know they're going to kind of pivot to the economy now and inflation. And they're going to come out and they're going to tell everybody that inflation is not as bad as you think it is, and that they've got a handle on it. So they're really believing that by them telling you what you're living, that you're going to believe them over your lying eyes, the gas prices at the pump, the prices at the grocery store, the heating oil, the transportation on everything, and even in the department stores, of course, because you've got transportation costs. They are now going to come out and tell us that what we feel and see and experience every day isn't really what's happening. That inflation is not that bad. It's under control. At the same time, Biden's telling us that we have to go through this pain to get to the other side, and it's all going to be worth it when we get there. So that's the problem. 100%, Mark, kangaroo courts. And we see this. And this is why we understand there literally are two justice systems in this country. Depending on your political affiliation and who you know, what you do, is how the justice will come to you. Let's take a look at what happened the other night. Nancy Pelosi's husband ultimately was arrested for DUI. I think they refer to it as DUI in California. I'm not sure. There's different states call it operating under or driving while under. Whatever California is, he got charged for being intoxicated when driving. Now, the thing about that is almost 5 hours passed before he was given a breathalyzer test in the roadside tests. 5 hours. He's stopped and taken into custody and control at 11 o'clock at night. And it's not till 4 o'clock in the morning where he's given the breathalyzer test, at which point he blows a .08. Now, if you have ever experienced a DUI or just had a lot of drinks one night, you know that the longer the time goes back, your body metastasizes the alcohol and eventually you start to sober up. If you are taken into custody and you don't have another drop of alcohol, and boy, I'm making an assumption on that one, that they weren't having cocktails with the guy at the station, that it would be not 0.08. You've had 5 hours to metastasize and metabolize this. It should be much lower, if at all. So how drunk was he at the time that they actually stopped him? That in itself, none of you are going to get that. What happened in that 5 hours? How many phone calls were made? How many times was the phrase or similar phrase used, do you know who I am, type of thing? Good question. Hey, we're going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side, folks.
You're out.
All right. But let that keep running down so there's something running through the streaming. Otherwise, it's weird. When people come across, there'll be no noise. Hey, Ted, let that run through.
Running.
I don't hear anything. There you go. Thanks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty
Caller
today
Ken.
at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We're going to keep it pleasant again today with high temperatures in the 70s away from the coastline. If you're headed to the beaches, temperatures will be a little cooler with highs in the 60s this afternoon, but all around just feeling wonderful with that low humidity for yet another day. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Chris Thompson here, station manager at WCRN. I need salespeople. If you're retired or
30 seconds
to make a few extra dollars, this opportunity is perfect for you. Work part-time, set your own schedule. It's fun. We provide the training you need to succeed. The only thing better than listening to Howie Carr is selling Howie Carr. If you're outgoing, not afraid to learn new things, and would like to earn some extra money, call me at 508-870-5803, extension 222. Start making money selling radio.
WCRN is an equal opportunity employer.
Talk about real estate, mortgages, and the economy on the Drew Mortgage Show, weekdays at noon on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
Driving is a team activity.
Everyone on the road is on your team.
Share the road to get there alive.
Be aware, be polite.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show. You want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Don't forget, we are live streaming on the TuneIn app, and if you want to listen to it on the live streaming with the picture or camera in the studio, you can do that on Facebook and Twitter, Joe Mangi, Mangi show, or YouTube channel, LinkedIn page. And of course, we're on Twitch TV. I don't know why, but we're there at Joe M Show. 508-871-7000 7,000. I do got to get into the president's comments about 9mm rounds and that blows the lung out of your body. His words. And by the way, 9mm round is the most used ammunition in the country, the most, right? 2018, we had 8.6 million guns manufactured in the United States, and the majority category weapon was the 9mm, right? It is what is put into most handguns that are used for concealment and personal protection, but we'll get into that. 508-871-7000. Let me jump to the phones. Ken has been waiting. Hey, Ken, what's on your mind, sir?
Good afternoon, Joe.
Hey.
What you brought up in the first session with Sussman, yes, Mark properly diagnoses as the path to the banana republic, but fortunately we still have free speech. You have your show.
We do,
so,
but it's under attack
yeah,
at all points, Ken, right? Under attack all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just like the
but
second.
We have to have an action plan. So literally, I've been to D.C. probably 4 or 5, 6 times. Until there's changes, I'm never going again.
Okay.
Because if anything were to happen to me, I might as well be a U.S. citizen in Moscow.
Oh, you mean you're comparing like you wouldn't go because if you got swept up like innocent people did in the January 6th thing, you have no defense, right? These people, by the way, they're being held with no bail. I mean, like in a black hole type of thing, in reports of abuse going on, and for what? Most of these people just happened to go to what was supposed to be a rally. And again, I just want to share this because I explained to people that the same method in technology that the intelligence agencies used is what Dinesh D'Souza used along with that organization when they made 2,000 Mules. And that was taking raw data from the cell phones, putting the GPS. So if you were Mary and John Smith from Iowa and you said, let's go to the rally and we'll see the Capitol, right? We'll sightsee a little bit. We'll have a sign. We'll say, yay, yay, yay. And they have their phones with them, of course. It pings them and he puts them in there. And a lot of people just kind of followed the crowd because there is video, and they're not letting a lot of this out, of the Capitol Police opening the doors and ushering people in to see the Capitol. So you could have been one of those people that had no indication by the behavior of the Capitol Police and what was going on around you that this was anything but them welcoming you to the Capitol that day. So I get what you're saying. It's like going behind enemy lines, Ken. You get caught there and wrapped and swept up into something. You're going to mortgage your house to the hilt just to prove your innocence. And they don't have to prove guilt. Go ahead.
Joe, you didn't mention the other conflict with the judge.
Oh, yeah.
He happened to be a professional acquaintance in the 90s. And his wife represented Lisa Page.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very incestuous. I know I had a whole list of stuff. I know time-wise I didn't get to everything, but the judge was also compromised. He should have recused himself from this. And the easiest thing is I go along with Kash Patel's suggestion to the DOJ, move the darn trial out of D.C. It's too swampy. When you start connecting dots, say again.
You know the numbers that the 92% of DC is Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, I said that earlier. It's a Democrat. It's the DNC is like out of DC, right? You're not going to run into a lot of Republicans, and quite frankly, the conservatives and the Republicans in that beltway usually keep quiet about it because they would like to keep their jobs. They would like job advancement. It's very sad that we have to say that, or that they have to live that way. But you cannot get a fair trial, a trial worthy of Lady Justice inside the Beltway in D.C. for anything concerning or connected to the Russian hoax or anything that has to do with Trump or Hillary. It's just not possible. And we see that, Ken, right? You see it clear as a bell. I see it. I'm talking about it. But they don't want to move it because it's just easier to do the sham trial, find everybody not guilty, who are as guilty as sin. Durham came, locked and loaded. He had it. Now, I don't think this is going to deter him or faze him. And I think he has a lot more to go. But
I disagree.
we got to move it out of D.C.
You know, this is the end of future trials under Durham because why bother? It's not going to accomplish anything.
Yeah, he'll continue to go. He's not like that. He's not going to do that. He's a straight shooter. He's a guy that just he'll try it again. He'll try not that again. He can't try that trial. I'm saying he'll continue to try. And even if that happens. Now, he didn't bother to request a change of venue, and I wish he had. It wouldn't have done anything because the judge determines it, and the judge is already in on this. And I think that's disgusting. Somebody should file on this judge, and he should either be removed from the bench or something. And it's not however they punish the judges. But this is going to happen.
John's never going to go after the judge.
But this is going to happen again and again. You're not going to get a different type of trial, folks. When he brings the next thing, right? You're going to get a couple or three Hillary supporters. You're going to get some Biden supporters, some Obama supporters in there who have actually, and I'm not just saying they voted, which is bad enough, but he had 3 people on there who wrote checks to the Hillary campaign, one who wrote to the AOC's campaign, and then you got a woman who's connected to Sussman because their daughters are on the same team and play together. Any other place, any other case, those would have been removed, Ken. They would have been removed. And he wouldn't have had to use one of his preemptives, right? He would have just challenged it. The judge would have said, "Really, you donated to Hillary, and the trial is about Hillary's lawyer? Of course you're out of here. You can't sit on this jury." Any other judge? Well, no. Any straight judge, any judge with integrity who takes their judicial role seriously would have knocked them off of the jury on that alone. In Sussman, who had used all his exempts, wouldn't have to use the exempts there. It's going to happen again, though.
Joe, the only recourse is at the ballot box.
Only recourse is.
Great, folks.
Say again, Ken. The only recourse was what?
At the ballot box.
Oh yeah, the ballot box. Yeah, absolutely. Provided, that we're not faced with drop boxes all over the place again, unattended, and there's ballot harvesting and ballot stuffing and all that. And please,
get your cameras out.
Yeah. And if you're sitting here and you're listening and you're like, "Oh, you say that all the time," there is none of that. I call up 508-871-7000. Let's go through the footage. Let's go through the case. Let's go through the number of dead people who voted. I mean, after every election, folks, we go back and we find all this. And we still get the same line, don't we? There's no voter corruption. Well, what about this, this, and this? Well, there's a little voter corruption, but not enough to sway a trial. Well, wait a minute. We had 2,000 people employed by NGOs who in the middle of the night made 10 or more trips to these drop boxes in the 2020 election. And as the video will show, they stuff them full of ballots. Now, if they're not ballots, then why wasn't there a question as to why were all these things stuffed with something else? Of course, they were ballots. So they were in possession of hundreds, if not thousands, of ballots that you're not supposed to be. The federal election law says you're only allowed to be in possession of your own ballot. So we have it. So what's going to happen about it? Now, I know everybody, it was, this is what happened. But I bring this up. I've said this before, folks. So what? Joe Biden is president. He was sworn in, right?
1 minute.
You can't unswear him in. Right? You can't unswear the guy in. He's the president. So what do? Can you null and void a presidency, Ken?
No, you can't do that, Joe, but simply invite your skeptical friends over for a night at the movies, 2,000 Mules.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I agree. Ken, I got to hold you there because we're coming up against the clock for the thanks for the third break and fourth and final segment of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side, and we'll wrap up today's edition.
Spring is in the air, and it's full speed ahead for your Worcester Red Sox. And tickets are on sale now. Enjoy unique bobbleheads, Unibank fireworks, and magical moments for your family on the field. Visit BlueSox.com or call 508-500-8888. No worries at Fuller Park. We'll see you opening day, April 12th.
Testimonials stream in daily describing the many benefits found with CBD Bionaturals. One benefit is improved sleep. During sleep, your immune system releases proteins called cytokines, needed to fight infections, inflammation, and stress. That's right, proteins you need to fight infections, inflammation, and stress just when you need it most. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Go to cbdbionow.com because now is the time to improve and protect your health. That's cbdbionow.com.
1 minute.
93% of adults listen to the radio each week. Of those exposed to radio ads, over half made a purchase. Despite how often the media reports on newer forms of advertising, it is, in fact, free broadcast radio that most effectively reaches and truly influences customers. Radio allows you to place your company's message directly to the radio audience for 30 or 60 seconds, and it's a gold mine. Radio advertisements are more memorable compared to written and visual ads. It's just this simple. Sound is stored more effectively inside memories. Reach over 90% of this market's potential customers with your radio message on WCRN Full Service Radio. Call station manager Chris Thompson at 508-870-5803, extension 222, or visit WCRNradio.com.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back for the fourth and final segment of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388, or text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. They appear on the same screen in real time. So before I get into the president's comment and the stupidity of the gun control argument, I just want to point out that Chicago had one of the deadliest Labor Day weekends ever. 47 people were shot, 9 fatally. 47 people were shot between Friday and Monday in Chicago. 9 of them died. And that happens, numbers change a little bit, but that happens every weekend in Chicago, Detroit, DC, New York, LA. And when you're talking about gun control, folks, Chicago, you know what that gun control is? You can't have any. New York's the same way. So what is this argument that the left always has in their reaction is always to go after the inanimate object, the gun, the one variable in the debate. And as my father would say it, they're a broken record. No matter what happens, what the circumstances are, they start talking about gun control, and we need laws. Yet you don't enforce the laws you have. Now follow me on this, because you've got the DAs and prosecutors in these cities who don't really want to prosecute the gun laws that they have, because it would be disproportionately to people of color, because it's the city and the population is askew to the general population. Higher percentage of people of color live in these cities that we're talking about. So when it comes time to prosecute, they're a little afraid to do that because they don't want the social justice aspect to be out of whack. Follow what I'm saying? So they want to talk about gun laws and more laws, yet they don't enforce the gun laws in the areas where 47 people are shot and 9 killed in one weekend. So who are you going after then? How does that make sense? And less than 2% of people killed with a gun in a year in the United States are killed with a gun that's registered to the person who used it. See what I'm saying? So 98% of the guns have been illegally gotten. So the laws are irrelevant. They don't even factor in to the situation at all. And more people are killed with fists and knives every year than with guns in this country. Now, when we look at the Texas shooting, and on earlier shows, a caller brought up the money. Where'd he get the money? And it was a good question. Wasn't anything I was really thinking about because I'm focusing all on the other aspects of it. But I wondered about that. Here's this kid who kind of, he dropped out of school, kind of stopped going because he's being bullied. Talks a little funny. He has a lisp. He wears mascara. So the kids make a leap. Call him names there, bully him there. He works part-time at Wendy's. And a caller asked me, geez, what would this cost? And I didn't have receipts or anything in front of me, but quick calculation, I said it would be over $3,000. He'd be pushing $4,000 probably on that shopping spree. Well, it's come out that it was about $4,000. One of the rifles that he bought, he paid $1,800 for. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. The same gun could be purchased at a different gun dealer for a lot less, like half almost. So that's telling me money wasn't an object. He didn't shop around. I mean, he got a rifle that shot 5.56 ammo, and it was pretty tricked out, and he happened to go to a gun dealer store that, for whatever reason, really kind of ups the prices, right? Guy likes to make money. So he charges a little more for the same gun you can get somewhere else. So this kid paid $1,800 for, a gun he could have got for $900, $1,200 at another store. That's interesting. right? He doesn't part-time at Wendy's. About 4,000 when you get the true rifles, the 1,600 rounds of ammunition, the body armor, the gun cases and straps, right? You start adding all this accessories on. Trust me, when you go to buy a new weapon, a new gun for your personal collection or personal protection, the cost of the gun itself is you're not even close to done. And depending on what it is, you have to buy the magazines, unless they're magazines that are interchangeable with guns you already own. Now you're talking about holsters, just for the average person, I'm saying. That's why a big thing right now out there is companies are coming out with universal holsters. You buy, you have a 38 snub nose versus a 9mm, and you got to have all different kinds of holsters for each weapon, in different kind, right, on the belts. Or you're going to really conceal it under a shirt, etc. You get into that. We're digressing. Point is that 97 children have been shot in Chicago this year alone. 97. But we don't see the outrage and the action that we see in the school shooting, and I'm not diminishing that at all. That's a horrific. But to focus in on the gun when you do nothing weekend after weekend, day after day, as shootings rage in these communities and cities where guns aren't even allowed, you have to say, well, why now? What is it now that you're having a problem with, that you didn't have a problem with before? Now, the president comes out and he talks about going after the 9mm. Well, the 9mm is the most bought and used ammunition in the country. In this misconception, you got Whoopi Goldberg. Why do we keep going to these jamokes on The View? By definition, these are comedians who got a show. And we're supposed to listen to them tell us what we need in policy. And again, like so many times, and I've pointed out their errors, pointed out their ignorance on guns over and over again when they want to ban guns, but they don't know what they're talking about. Biden is constantly talking about clips and rounds and interchanging them and clearly doesn't understand what he's talking about. You've got people in Congress, right? They wanted to ban the barrel shroud, right? That was a piece of legislation. But they couldn't tell you what a barrel shroud is. And I maintain, I go back to this over and over again, they keep using this phrase, right? We can do the montage over the last few days. Weapons of war. That's the new key phrase from the left. Weapons of war. Let me tell you something. The AR-15 is not a weapon of war. It is not a very powerful gun, despite what it looks like. It is a cool-looking gun, and it does look like something a soldier would have. But it's not a powerful weapon. As a matter of fact, there's 2 or 3 states that don't even classify it for use in deer hunting because it's not powerful enough to take a deer down. It's 5.56. It's equivalent to firing a .22, folks. It's not this very powerful rifle. It's fairly accurate. They're easy to maintain and carry, and it's cool. In a barrel shroud, woo, barrel shroud. That sounds pretty warlike, right? Isn't that a weapon of war? No, a barrel shroud is a piece of plastic that goes over the barrel that helps. Look, the last thing you want to do if you fired a lot of rounds through a rifle is accidentally grab the barrel. It's probably going to be a little warm, if not hot, and burn you. Barrel shroud is just a covering that allows you to hold that without burning your hand off, folks. And when you start adding a scope, an extended magazine, and the other things you can do to it, it looks a heck of a lot more intimidating than it is. So Whoopi, stop with and she called them, you can keep your Yahoo guns, something like that. But the AR-15 has got to go. It's a weapon of war. And we need the media to start asking them, please define what a weapon of war is. Please define an assault weapon. Please explain your reasoning on this, how you got to this conclusion, because it makes no logical sense when you talk about this stuff. None whatsoever, folks. So Joe Biden gets out there and he's talking about 9mm and blows your lungs out. Yet that is the most popular used ammunition for the protection of one's self and family, because it fits into the most popular gun made, the 9mm. We make millions of guns every year in this country on top of the 400-500 million guns that we already have. But we actually have to wrap up this week's edition, or this Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Be back on, of course, Friday at 1 o'clock and tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for Political Thursday with Jerry Doherty. So don't miss that out. And check us out online at tjmshow.com and follow us on our social media, Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. That'll wrap it up, folks. Thank you for joining us. Joe out.
Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad.